Wales at 10 years of age, suddenly Chinese in a sea of white people and Welsh kids, suddenly English in an environment that hated English accents, I felt really alone. And that's when the performer part in me locked in hard, because approval wasn't a nice thing to have from your peers anymore. It was absolute survival. And fast forward to quitting drinking, of course, there's a part of me that was terrified of losing my friends if I stopped drinking. What if quitting drinking wasn't really about losing your friends, but about losing your supply? Not alcohol, not even fun. Supply. That deep hit of approval, of feeling special, of knowing that you belong. Because here's the truth. When I quit drinking, my greatest fear wasn't the empty pint glass. It was the empty space where my friends' validation used to be. Welcome to the 1000 Days Sober podcast. My name is Davy. I am not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I am someone who lives a self-led life, alcohol-free as fuck, and I spend every waking moment of that life helping other people do the same, like right now. I am currently in Jeju in South Korea. My deepest apologies for not being here as often as I have. As you know, I think I said on the last podcast, I'm not going to continue to do the daily podcast because I found it a little exacting on my time and it was taking me away from my family and I didn't want to do that. So no daily podcasts. But the reason we haven't been as consistent putting some content out on social media and podcasts is I've had a medical issue that I've been dealing with and I've been traveling. So right now I am in Jeju in South Korea and I've hired a nanny to look after Zia for 3 hours. Liza's downstairs working. I'm actually the house husband this week. And I thought, let's do a podcast. Yeah, let's do a podcast while I got the room here to myself here in Jeju. So this is what it's all about, okay? So I didn't know this at the time, right? And it took me years of coaching and self-work to figure it out. But I have always had a performer part running the show. Right? There's always been a part of me who likes to perform for other people. So growing up, my parents' dominant tone to me was one of annoyance, irritation. That became the soundtrack of my childhood, that I was too much, that I was in the way of my parents, right? And yet there were rare golden moments where I would sneak downstairs with my mom to watch the World Cup, which I did in 1986, or wait until my sisters fell asleep and crawl downstairs to watch late night films like Jaws, which scared the absolute crap out of me. And when I did that with my mom, I felt truly special. I felt loved, not for what I did, but for who I was. But here's the thing for me and my childhood, and maybe it might be the same with you. Those moments of love, those moments of just being loved for who I am were very inconsistent and they came in bursts. Most of the time in my childhood, love felt very conditional. You see, my mum had to look after 4 kids on her own because my dad was always out working away. And when he was home, he was always emotionally absent. So my mum was pretty burnt out, I imagine, as a parent back then. And I learned very quickly that if I wanted attention, I had to perform. I had to be the best at football. I had to be the funny kid on stage in school, singing and dancing. I had to be the most likable friend, right? So when I moved to Wales at 10 years of age, suddenly Chinese in a sea of white people and Welsh kids, suddenly English in an environment that hated English accents, I felt really alone. And that's when the performer part in me locked in hard, because approval wasn't a nice thing to have from your peers anymore. It was absolute survival. And fast forward to quitting drinking, of course, there's a part of me that was terrified of losing my friends if I stopped drinking, because friends weren't just friends. They were the audience for my performance. They were the source of my supply. And without them, I had to answer a very difficult question. Who the hell was I? Now, we're going to pause for a moment, but I want you to think about your own circle while we take a break, your own circle of friends, right? When you imagine life without drinking, do you fear losing the people Or do you fear losing what those people give you? The laughs, the nods, the reassurance that you're okay. Sit with that, because sometimes what we're really afraid of isn't losing friends, it's losing the supply. Are you afraid that quitting alcohol means losing your friends? That's not really the fear. The real fear is losing your supply, that constant hit of approval, attention, and belonging. And that's exactly why I created Strive Foundations. It's a 20-workshop course designed to help you see alcohol for what it really is. It's a liquid lie, and to finally understand why you drink. You'll learn how to stop outsourcing your worth, break free from people-pleasing, and start building a self-led life where you don't need a drink or anyone's approval to feel enough. Inside Strive Foundations, you'll get daily practices, powerful distinctions, and the support of a community that actually gets it. This isn't about losing friends, it's about gaining yourself. So if this episode resonates with you, head over to thestrivemethod.com/foundations and join today. Don't wait for approval from anyone else. Approve of yourself and take the first step now. Back to the show. Welcome back to the 1000 Days Sober podcast. And we have been talking about the need for approval, right? And why I was afraid to lose friends when I quit alcohol. And likely you may actually feel the same, right? So what do you do? What do you do if this resonates to you? If you're listening to this and thinking, Lee, this is bang on, right? Like I am absolutely terrified of losing my friends, because actually I'm starting to realize as I listen to this podcast that they provide me with a supply. I once read a book called, I think it was The Gifted Child by Alice Miller, and she talks about narcissistic supplies, right? So it's like your narcissistic supplies are when you're young, you're a baby and you're a toddler, and your caregivers are reflecting back to you that you are perfect, right? That is resourcing your narcissistic supplies. And if you don't get your narcissistic supplies resourced in that way, in a healthy way, you will try to resource them in an unhealthy way. So you will try to behave in ways that you get your narcissistic supplies met from outside of you. One way that I see this actually a lot, and I've experienced it myself, is when parents absolutely idolize their children and they mollycoddle them and they love them and kiss them and hug them, and because they're drawing in that supply of love and intimacy and connection that makes them feel safe, right? That's getting your narcissistic supplies from outside of you. So what do you actually do if this resonates with you? What do you do if you're getting your narcissistic supplies from outside of yourself and you're worried that you are not going to be able to stop drinking? Well, I guess step one is understanding, right? And like I said, for me, that understanding came when I did read Alice Miller's The Drama of the Gifted Child, right? Because this is where I discovered this idea of narcissistic supply. And I thought about it in my own life and I was like, holy crap, yeah? Like, I don't think that I actually got my narcissistic supplies met when I was younger. I think I did to start off with, but then when my mother met my stepdad, when I was between 1 and 2 years of age, my dad's already told me that his main job when he was younger was to pull me away from my mom. Like he said, you were sleeping with her and I didn't want you sleeping with her. I wanted you in your own cot. And the way he talks about that period of life, I'm like, oh, wow, I don't think I got my narcissistic supplies met when I was younger, right? So this deep need for approval, this deep need for attention, and the mirroring that grows when we didn't consistently get these things as kids, this is what you need to be aware of, right? You need to be asking yourself, why do I feel really uncomfortable when it comes to being around my friends and they're drinking and I'm not? And I guarantee you there will be a connection here to this need for approval and you feeling unsafe because you're not going to get it from them, right? Step two is acceptance. So this isn't a problem you necessarily solve and never see again. You know, like my performer part still shows up, right? Shows up all the time. And it's not about banishing it. It's about recognizing it. It's about becoming aware. It's about realizing, I feel the part of me that's hustling for approval again. And then finding a way to get above the line to connecting to self. Because from an internal family systems perspective, the performer is a protector part. And underneath that protector part is an exile. So for me, it's like the boy who felt like he was annoyance and an irritant in the house who longed to be special. And the performer tries to protect him by seeking narcissistic supplies from outside himself, right? So the real work is noticing when the performer is active, meeting the performer from compassion and from self. I do that by talking to myself. And remember that this isn't you failing, it's a part of you trying to keep yourself safe. Okay. Step 3 is all about the practice. I used to say the work. Sometimes I slip into the work, but it ain't the work, it's practice. And what I mean by practice is everything that we need to be the most perfectly imperfect version of ourselves is already within us. It was already there when the sperm met the zygote. That's how the universe works. You are perfect. Everything you need is inside you, right? So it's a practice. It's a practice about getting in touch with self. This is where the real true healing begins when you become alcohol free as fuck, right? Is like getting into the practice of healing. Because every day you give yourself what you once looked for outside of yourself, love, compassion, empathy, a hug. For me, that means approving of myself in small but deliberate ways. Telling my exile and the performer, you're not an annoyance to me, you're not an irritant, okay? And you're loved for just being you. You don't have to perform to matter. Now, one of the things I find with my clients a lot when they talk to their parts from self is they start to fix them, right? They start to tell them that it's like, yeah, they basically try to fix them, right? They try to fix them, and when that happens, you could tell that it's a part talking to a part. It's not self. Self is just like, dude, you're terrified. You're afraid of losing approval if you stop drinking. I get it, man. I get it. What do you need from me? When you get that energy, that's self, right? When you get this kind of energy, hey, I get it. You're really nervous that if you stop drinking, your friends won't like you. You don't need them anyway, right? You don't need them anyway. You're better than that. We'll go get other friends. It's okay. It's cool, right? Because you're dismissing your part's feelings. So the part will feel like it's not being heard, seen, or that it matters, which is exactly what happened when it was younger, and is exactly why it's in exile, and exactly why you have a performer part trying to protect it. So it's just very simply, how are you feeling right now? I feel like shit. Wow, I get it. What do you need from me? I need you to hold me. I got you, right? So it could be something as simple as a few minutes each morning, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, speaking these words out loud. It might feel a little bit awkward at first, but that's how you fill the old supply gap, right? Not with alcohol, not with applause, not with your friends' approval, but with your own constant mirroring. And here's the truth. Doing this daily doesn't stop you fearing the loss of friends, right? But it does rebuild your relationship with yourself. You stop outsourcing your worth and you start living from self. And that's when alcohol free as fuck really clicks, not as a rule, but as your new identity. Okay, today's daily vow. Today I will not drink because I don't need to chase approval, attention, or belonging from outside of me. I give that to myself. I mirror myself. I remind the little boy inside me that he is whole, that he is loved, that he doesn't have to perform to matter. If you're afraid of losing your friends, maybe it's not about the people. Maybe it's about the supply. And once you learn to give that to yourself, you stop fearing loss and you start living free. If this landed with you, then here's a challenge. Break that cycle right now. We've just been talking about how terrifying it can feel to lose approval. So maybe there's a part of you that doesn't want to leave a review for this show. You don't want to rate it because what if people see your name? And what if someone judges you? That is your performer talking. So please practice. Do it today. Rate and review this show. Approve of yourself enough to be supporting something that matters. That is how you practice reclaiming supply from the inside out, okay? And share it with someone as well. There is someone out there that really needs to hear this. You could change someone's life. Okay, you ready for the sovereign vow? Hand on your heart, one in your belly, big deep breath. Repeat after me. I am a striver who is alcohol free as fuck. And I will not drink today because that is not what I do and that is not who I am. Until tomorrow, much love and strive on, everybody.